Hi there. This is a thought for the day, and this comes from the book Kundalini by, selected writings of Gopi Krishna, but it was edited by Gene Kieffer. And this is about empowering human evolution. And I'm reading from page 214, where he says, this is Gopi Krishna talking here. After studying my condition for more than 40 years, I now feel that even if I had studied all the literature on Kundalini available at the time, I could not have solved the problems of insomnia, psychic disturbances, and the organic symptoms I experienced immediately after the awakening. There are no words. 3 years of no sleep. He continues, right up to this day, I have not been able to find a detailed account of the arousal that happens in Kundalini, meticulously describing its effects on the body mind complex and the changes that occur in them until a paranormal state of consciousness is observed or attained. From my point of view, there is no aspect of my experience so important for study and investigation as the slow metamorphosis that my cerebrospinal system underwent to equip the brain for a new pattern of consciousness, a pattern not in evidence in the average ranks of mankind. The phenomenon raises a problem, which, so far as I know, has not been discussed in any work on yoga or mysticism or any other occult or esoteric system, ancient or modern. This slow metamorphosis in consciousness, which occurred imperceptibly from the very moment of my first experience, provides the key to the conclusion I have arrived at that Kundalini represents the upgrading mechanism behind the evolution of the human brain. What has led modern scientists to believe that the brain has reached the apex of its organic evolution is a riddle to me and to many other thoughtful minds. What evidence they have for this premature conclusion when the human encephalon, that's the brain, is still a profound mystery no one is ready to explain. How the primate brain evolved to human dimension during the course of millions of years raises a problem that so far no one has solved. The books written on the subject contain mere speculation, exciting narratives of the vanished species, sometimes talk about the sublime, or platitudes. In actual fact, the whole theory of evolution by Darwin and his successors is only a huge mass of observation and data, extending now to over a century without any solution to the issue. What is the basic mechanism that came into operation in the evolution of the human brain from that of the primates? Not that I think we evolved from primates. I think we were helped to move from primate to human. What is the basic mechanism that came into operation in the evolution of the human brain from that of the primates? And what intelligent agency coordinated the functions of the entire system to make changes in a complex organ like the human brain possible at each step of the ascent, and to transmit the advances gained from generation to generation? Looking back at the events that followed the first awakening, it seems to me to be obvious now that the intensity of concentration exercised for many years had slowly stimulated a small area in the brain directly above the palate and below the crown of the head. The exquisite sensations I felt moving up the spine which stopped and disappeared when my mind was diverted or distracted. Those exquisite sensations were the beginning in the cerebrospinal system of a new activity that will be determined by science in the course of time. Two distinct entities moved up the spine side by side with the intensely pleasurable sensation I experienced. One was a kind of radiation, orange in color in the beginning, which later on changed to silver with a slightly golden color in it. The second was an organic essence that entered the brain at the same time as the radiation. The organic essence was not so clearly marked on the first occasion as on the second, several years later. But there is not the least doubt that this subtle organic substance is behind the exquisite sensations of the arousal. We have not been able to determine yet how the intense rapture of the climax of love is experienced by an individual. What kind of biochemical reagent or electrical discharge is at the back of that delicious transport of the orgasm? Modern research has shown that there's a certain area in the brain that, when electrically stimulated, gives rise to the same sensation that marks the sexual climax. There must occur some kind of chemical or electrical activity to cause a momentary rapture that has no parallel in the other pleasures experienced by the human mind. That is an understatement. It is because of this extremely delightful, sense ravishing transport of the conjugal union and the release from pressure that it grants to the mind that the compelling power of the reproductive urge exists. There's no awareness among the learned that this intense rapture of the erotic union can occur at places in the body other than the genitals. To make an assertion of this kind before an assembly of scientists is to evoke incredulity and even ridicule. But the whole mystical literature of the world and the thousands of works in Sanskrit on Kundalini, including the Tantras, provide the testimony of thousands of individuals of unquestionable honesty and truth about this very phenomena. It's not possible to describe the intensity of the orgasmic sensation that occurs in the spinal cord and the brain on the arousal of Kundalini. Can't even come close. Except for the almost identical nature of the transportive experience, there's no comparison between the climax of conjugal union and the rapture caused by the flow of this divine fire from the base of the spine to the head. The duration of the former is only of a few seconds, followed by a sense of relief and lassitude, total relaxation. The latter can last for several minutes at a time, creating an almost swooning condition of the mind at the intensity of the rapture for as long as he likes, or as long as there is sufficient fuel in the body to cause it. On the return back to normal, there's no sense of lassitude or satiation. On the other hand, one feels mentally more invigorated and fresh than before. This is the hitherto undivulged secret of Kundalini. The human cerebrospinal system is capable of a new, amazing activity that is still unknown to science. The practice of meditation, carried on in the proper way regularly for sufficient duration of time, tends to force a normally silent region in the brain to an astonishing activity. Like an electric current, it galvanizes the nervous system to an action that is never experienced in the normal state. From every fiber and tissue of the body, a subtle organic essence extracted by nerve fibrils spread everywhere and carried to the brain through the spinal canal gives rise to the ecstatic and visionary conditions associated with religion from the earliest times. So as you go through the day, think about the metamorphosis that we are all meant to experience. That metamorphosis from ordinary consciousness to a different kind of consciousness with many more capacities, much more depth, huge expansion. Think about that. One of the things that helps that process, that unfolding, that evolution is allowing yourself to focus on something you love doing. So think about, what do you love doing? One of the earlier uh, thought for the days, thoughts for the day was about allowing yourself to become aware of what brings this sense of vitality that you want to do something. You want to involve yourself in something, whether it's poetry or arranging flowers or healing or designing something or. That kind of concentration is what evolves consciousness. That kind of passion, that kind of creativity, that kind of joy of immersing yourself in what you're here to do is what it's all about. Let yourself meditate on something you love by just allowing yourself to do it. And have a great day.